Well, hello there, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. Take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective, and that means we're looking at supply and demand on the charts, asking ourselves, what is significant? How are we testing it? What does it tell us? I do the show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube and under the channel L.A. Little. If you want to subscribe, just reach out up there in the right-hand corner. Anytime I push public content to this channel, you'll get a notification. As far as what happened today, let's take a look at it. Kind of a down day. Last night we were talking about this market was going to try to find a way to drop today. And it did, but it doesn't want to stay down, and we'll look at that here in a second. You had gold and silver starting to turn. They look like they're going to try and trade lower. All had a minor pullback. I wouldn't say minor. It had a pullback, 2%. It had just broken out over the weekly, but it hasn't been able to hold it so far. So tomorrow will be kind of a test for the oil market. The strength was over in Europe. The DAX, the CAX, they both break swing point highs, trying to move higher. Still struggling elsewhere, in domestically, but as I said, I believe that's fixing to change. We did see the dollar higher once again. Let's take a look at the charts here and see what they tell us, because you've got a number of things going on, and essentially we've got tests that are taking place. And if we look at those tests, right, the test that continued to take place is off this bar, and we've talked about this quite a bit. So today, we go back up, right, the price point here, 2147.18. If you go back over and look at this one, it's 2146.48. So you go back into it, you test it again, you can't break it down, or at least you can't get over it. Now what it also did, though, is it also came into, it didn't quite get to the bottom of this bar, but it came into this lows high. Volume there 35.8 versus 33.3. And so at least here on this index, right, this particular bar has tested both into here and into there and was able to do anything, and then closes just about in the middle with the doji. So this one really not telling us much. Where we are seeing something is elsewhere. And if we go over here to the NASDAQ, we'll be able to see it a little bit more clearly. So now, if we take that same bar and pull it up, and so we've got this bar here that we're looking at, go to the top of it, put a line across it, and so what do we do there? We test into it again. We don't have as much volume. We get a little expansion. We also test into this bar, right, and the amount is about the same. We did get a doji, but it's an open doji. It doesn't say that we're necessarily going higher, but it's a little bit of a lean to the top side, is the way that one reads. Now let's look at the NDX, because the NDX is where you're going to get the next move. It's going to happen, and actually you've got some news after hours that's going to try to power this up tomorrow. If we go to that same bar, it's here, right? Here's the top of it. So what do we do on this one? Now this is the one that's different, right? This one trades into the bar. They can't hold it down. It flips around, closes above it again. And so you got some bars under it. Now you got some bars over it, and you test back into it, and you say, no, I don't want to trade there. Buyers step up, sellers step away on technology. Technology has been what's led this market higher, and tomorrow I suspect technology is going to try to lead higher again, and the reason for that is going to be Microsoft. Now, it's earnings at this time of the year that are going to probably drive this market. We may get some exogenous news, some sort of potentially a surprise, like in the presidential race, or something out of who knows where. But for the most part, that which is going to move this market is going to be earnings. And if you're a TA Today member and following the portfolios that I put out, the ones that I trade, you're going to be pretty happy here, because Microsoft after the bell does a beat. and they were up 5%. So you're going to get a nice pop tomorrow. Now, the reason we took that position, we took this position last week actually in the TA Today portfolio. And the reason we took it was we had this nice big breakout bar over here, right? Nice big volume. You shoot up, you test, you test, you test, you lay the test, the groundwork down here, all this testing down in this area. And then you finally push over it. You push over it, you get a swing point breakout right over these two swing points, and then you hold. You hold tight up there in front of earnings. You don't give anything up, you just hold tight. Tomorrow it's going to open up around 60, 60 and a half. You're going to get a nice pop up, an extension. That's going to put an ABCD structure in place. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Microsoft is the second heaviest weighting in the NASDAQ NDX. And so if you bring this ABCD structure, you can see it goes off the chart. We basically went from 48 to 58, 10 points. Take it, put it under there. That's 66 target up above. That's a big move. Google's next week, Apple next week. Those three are going to define what the NDX does. Up until tonight, you had not had any huge winners in technology. Intel night before last, or actually it was last night, right? 6% down today. Outside of that, of course, you had IBM down, but IBM's always down, or at least they've been losing money for years now. So really, these are the first, or this is, you did have Netflix, but I wouldn't say it's of the same caliber as a Microsoft. So big move up, going to power this NDX if it holds, and that's what I'd be looking for tomorrow. And going back to the chart of the NDX itself, you can see that what it did was unlike the others. It actually gave a signal that it didn't want to trade lower. The others were kind of dojis, not telling you anything. This doji actually did tell you something. Let's go to the Russell. Now the small caps have been struggling, and I can't put my finger on why they're struggling, but they are. Today it trades under, back over, no volume compare. I mean, there's no difference in the volume comparison. This one also really not telling me anything. So the only one that's giving me a signal here is the NDX, and the NDX telling me it wants to go higher. Now what was surprising today was not so much our markets, but the European markets. We had Draghi come out today, really didn't say much different, but if you look at those indexes, they took off today. You get breaks, swing point breaks, and I've got it on the daily here, swing point break of that high, now going after this high, put it on the weekly, trying to break back above the high that had broken once before, and you're going to try to go attack the other one. Now the one that's really starting to shine again is the DAX. The DAX gets the same sort of breakout. It gets over this one. It's got the other one to go. But if you look over here, it wants to go after that swing point high. That ABCD structure on the way up is attempting to fire. The bullish retest regens that were here held, right? So it's doing everything you want to see it do. What you want to see it do is get over this and set up these ABCD structures to push higher. That would be in concert with what we're doing, and that would give some juice to the world markets as well. A market I don't talk about that much, but I think is worth bringing up is the Canadian market, our friends up north. This broke out today. All time frames, or actually yesterday, broke out over this one. It's got, I think it broke out over 3 of the 4. That's on the daily. Bring it to the weekly. You're also breaking over a swing point high that's right here. And so if these guys get another push tomorrow, and you bring it over and look at the monthly, right, they've got a huge push on the upside already taking place. This top of this breakdown bar, about 15,000 is where they're trying to get to. It's another 270 points higher. I don't know what's moving Canada. I haven't paid all that much attention to it, but I know it's moving. I know that the currency had devalued previously, right, and has been going up recently, which you would think wouldn't help it that much, but maybe that's not the factor anymore. Maybe it's just the fact that things are getting better. I didn't see the Canadian Central Bank move on anything this week. They had their little powwow earlier. Here's the currency. It is kind of trading in this range, but if you pull it back, you can see, you made a nice move off the bottom, and now you've been hanging there. Maybe the expectation is this is going to depreciate. I know that the expectation is the dollar is going to appreciate, because the dollar has taken a nice big swing to the top side here. As soon as we get it up, let's see, there we go. The push here that we made, that directional move, right? Then we got the little setback. You got over it, kind of hesitated, and now it's starting to power again. If this dollar starts this move and actually starts legging higher, again, I think it's going to make it tough on the market. And, over here it's not as nearly as extended, but again, there's a range up there, and the whole world's not going to break down if this thing breaks out of this range and pushes to the top side range. But I don't know that down the road that's going to be an issue. I don't know that it's going to be one immediately. It's going to slow things down on the upside on the equity markets domestically, but I don't think it'll kill them yet. It's later that will happen, if it's going to. Gold and silver, they're going to try to pull back probably. You can actually see that in the gold chart. And if we go, I want to look at the FXE. Here's the gold chart. You can see that kind of a bearish engulfing last night, or actually today over last night's trade. Here's the FXE continuing to break down. That's what's powering the Euro PN stocks higher. So in a nutshell, you've got European stocks moving higher. That kind of supports our equity market and counters what's happening negatively on the dollar for now, right? Because the dollar becomes an issue on earnings farther down the road. You've got Microsoft going to power earnings in the NDX tomorrow. It's going to power that move off of their earnings. And so my expectation is NDX is going to try to pull everybody with it. And so the thing to watch tomorrow is, do you get participation elsewhere? In particular, if you go look at the major sectors here, the one that I've been watching and the one I commented to members today is the financials. Even though we saw those earnings reactions that were not all that positive, this is holding up really well and looks to me like it wants to push higher, not lower. If you combine it and technology, as I showed members this weekend, these two groups are about 40% of the S&P. So you get these two moving, this whole thing will go topside before it's over. And my expectation is it's going to, in the end, it's going to do that. Whether we get a little weakness in between there, that's what I've been looking for. Some early weakness, short-term weakness, followed by longer-term strength. That's it for tonight. Have yourself a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.